Hello, welcome to Bob's Dungeon. My name is Bob, I'll be your host. And if you're watching this video, then welcome to 2024. At the beginning of every year, people tend to put together what they call New Year's resolutions. And these are goals they set for themselves. And sadly, usually, these goals are never really met. But it's good to have goals, whether you meet them or not. It always gives you something to strive for. And most people's goals at the beginning of the year are things about their lives, such as, I plan to go to the gym more, I plan to lose weight, I plan to make more money or save money or something. My New Year's resolutions are usually kind of weird. Every year I plan to write more. Never really get around to it. Always procrastinate and run out of time. And my other one that I have is there are certain games I want to play for at least a small to longish campaign. And I'm going to mention 10 games I'd like to play this year in a campaign, on an ongoing campaign basis, and a couple of honorable mentions. So let's go ahead and see what my honorable mentions are. The first honorable mention I got is Morkborg. Morkborg is a dark game. It's pretty weird, and I'd love to play this game with a group for a while as they build up for the apocalypse. And this game has a very high mortality rate, and so far I haven't found anybody willing to play this game with me, but hopefully that changes this year. Honorable mention number 2. Machinations of the Space Princess. And since I got this game, I've been really itching to run it. And so far I haven't found anybody to play with me yet. And it's a science fiction game, and I got a few ideas for this game if I could find players. Number 3 on my honorable mentions, Basic Dungeons & Dragons. Basic Dungeons & Dragons is where I got my start in role-playing games, and it's always got a soft spot in my heart, and I would just love to get another basic game going. Honorable mention number 4 is Star Wars from the West End Games, the D6 version. Now, this is one of my favorite games of all time, and it should have been in my proper list, but it's hard to find players for this game. Most of my players all want to play stuff in the D20 system, but if I could find players for this one, I'd be very happy. Number 5 is the Robotech role-playing game. I like Robotech, and this is a pretty good game. The one from Palladium Games, it is. And yeah, if I could find players willing to run this, I would be happy and settle for playing a campaign in this. And then another game I'm going to mention, a 6th one, is one that I haven't really played in a long while, but this may be the year that I start playing Vampire the Masquerade again. The old version of it. And I would be happy to run this again, but I think what I would need to run it is to get some of my old players together. If I could manage that, I'd probably run this game. I'd be happy with it. And those are my honorable mentions. Now I'm going to go into the games that I would really love to run a full campaign on, or a short campaign or something. Do something with these games. My first mention is Lamentations of the Flame Princess. And this is one of my favorite games as well. And the idea I have for this is running a long-term campaign for it, where I sprinkle in some of the adventure books that I have for it. And I've got quite a few of the adventure books. And it would be pretty good to run a dark game in this kind of setting. My next one is another vampire book. It's Blood Dark Thirst. I've run this game once and had a blast doing it. And if I could find players for it, I'd probably really get into running a long-term game in this, because there's a lot I could do with it, because the book is so simple and leaves so much for the game master to come up with. My next mention, number 3, is the Transformers role-playing game. I am a Transformers fan, and I would love to get a long-term campaign running in the Transformers game. I kind of got one going, but it's been on hiatus for a while. I've only run 2 sessions in it so far. I'd love to get back to it, or get a whole new game started with a bunch more players, and that would be really cool for me. My number 4 is Dungeon Crawl Classics. Now, I've run this game several times, but I've only ever run funnels. I would love to run a long-term campaign and get the players going through the actual levels and get a real good feel for the game. And it would be nice to do that. My next mention is a basic World of Darkness game where the players make up humans and wind up involved with supernatural goings-on. Now, I've run a game like that before, and I would love to revisit that. My next on the list, and this is very vampire heavy, and I'm sorry, but Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. I've had this book for a while, and so far I have not found anybody willing to play this version of Vampire the Masquerade with me. I would love to get a game going. I've got an idea that takes place in Columbus, Indiana, where the prince has disappeared and everybody's trying to pick up the pieces and become the new head honcho there in Columbus. Meanwhile, the freelancers are coming in and trying to take over. So that would be an awfully nice run, I think. My next game that I'd like to run a long campaign in is Warhammer Fantasy Role-Playing Game. I ran a game in this. I've only run this once. When I ran it for like a whole year. And it was a really fun game. And I would really like to come back to it and play another long-term campaign with some players, if I could find players for it. My next is After the Bomb. And After the Bomb would be a neat game for me, because it's post-apocalyptic. And I like post-apocalyptic stories. And it's uses the system that was popularized by the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles role-playing game. And it just has a lot more add-ons, so you can do much more with your mutants when you're mutating them at character creation. And I'd like to see where that goes. My final pick for a game I'd like to run a long-term campaign in this year is Vampire the Requiem. Vampire the Requiem is probably my favorite version of the Vampire game series. And I've had this book for years, and I have never found a group willing to play. I've only run a campaign in this once, and it was actually pretty fun. This game allows you to do a lot more than Vampire the Masquerade does, and I would love to get back to it. And those are games and some honorable mentions that I would love to run this year in a long campaign setting, or even short. I'd take that. The Vampire the Masquerade, the earlier editions, I've got ideas for it. I haven't run it in years because I've just haven't been into it. But I think if I can get my old players together, I would like to start a game that takes on from where we left off years ago. But really, any of these would be great fun to play. And that's my New Year's resolution, the games I'd like to play. Let me know in the comments what you think, games you'd like to play. And thank you for joining me at a look at some of my ramblings. And hopefully you'll join me next time where we'll talk about something else. Bye.